The family of Terrell Sims is speaking to News 19 today, sharing their thoughts about his death. This comes one day after his girlfriend, 29-year-old Taylor Wardlaw, was arrested and charged with murder. News 19's Becky Buds is live outside of the Columbia Police Department, and she has more on this case. Good evening, Becky.
Darcy, it's something the Sims family never saw coming. Their brother's girlfriend being arrested for his death. But the Sims family tells me the arrest brings them closure.
I mean, I'm hurting, but at the end of the day, I feel at peace.
Terrell Devon Sims was born July 6, 1995 in Richland County, South Carolina. His parents were Rathika Sims and the late Leroy Floyd. He graduated from Dreher High School in 2012 and had dreams bigger than Columbia could contain. Music was his passion. He loved gold jewelry, had that infectious smile that lit up rooms, and worked multiple jobs to support his 4 children. His family described him as someone who always made time for his kids, no matter what challenges life threw at him. And here's what's important: Terrell had a twin sister, Marcella. They weren't just siblings, they were each other's closest confidants. She knew him better than anyone. She could tell when something was wrong just by looking at him. That connection, it would become crucial later. Terrell was close with his mom, his kids, his sister, and no matter what life threw at him, he kept showing up. He worked, he created music, he helped take care of the people around him. Now let's talk about Taylor. Taylor Shanae Wardlaw was born in the Bronx, New York, but later moved to Columbia, South Carolina. She worked as an assistant manager at a Dollar General store. On the surface, she seemed like a hard-working single mother trying to balance parenthood with her career. She presented herself as strong, determined, independent, but those who knew her personally described something different: controlling, impulsive, and deeply insecure. Taylor had a need to know every detail of her partner's life, where they were going, who they were with, what they were doing. And if she didn't get answers, she'd find ways to get them. The couple met in 2018. What started as a passionate relationship quickly became something else entirely. But their relationship was not peaceful. Behind the couple's matching photos and TikToks were fights, big ones, explosive ones. According to court records and family testimony, there were multiple domestic violence calls over the years. Taylor's jealousy wasn't just emotional, it was surveillance. She would track Terrell's movements, demand access to his phone, and show up unexpectedly at places where he was supposed to be. Friends witnessed this behavior firsthand. If Terrell went out, Taylor needed to know where, with whom, and why. If he didn't answer his phone immediately, she'd call repeatedly. If he talked to other women, even casually, she'd accuse him of cheating. This wasn't love, this was ownership, and it escalated. In 2020, while Taylor was 9 months pregnant with their child, something happened that should have been a red flag for everyone involved. Taylor called police and reported that Terrell had assaulted her. She claimed he put a gun to her belly and threatened to kill her and their unborn baby. Think about that for a moment. She was about to give birth, and she's making these accusations. Terrell was immediately arrested for domestic violence. A court issued a no-contact order, designed to keep them separated for Taylor's safety and the safety of their child. While Terrell sat in jail awaiting trial, Taylor gave birth to their baby. He missed his child's birth because of these charges. Taylor posted Terrell's bail in August 2021. She got him out of jail. The same man she said threatened to kill her and their baby, she paid money to bring him home. They rekindled their relationship as if nothing had happened. They were living together again, playing happy family, posting photos with their baby. But according to Terrell's twin sister Marcella, there's more to this story, much more. Terrell later told Marcella the truth. Taylor had lied about the domestic violence incident. He said he never put a gun to her stomach. He never threatened her life. According to Terrell, Taylor made up the story because he had told her he didn't want to be with her anymore. When he tried to leave, she used the legal system to punish him, and it worked. He spent nearly a year in jail for something he said he didn't do. But Taylor wasn't done controlling the narrative. As part of his release conditions, Terrell was required to wear an ankle monitor. Legally, he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Taylor. but there he was living with her, co-parenting their child, trying to make things work. This violation of the court order would later become crucial evidence. In one case, according to family testimony, Taylor reportedly told Terrell something that would prove to be more than just words: "If I can't have you, no one else will." Even when police separated them, even after an ankle monitor was put in place to keep them apart, Taylor still found a way to be near him. But by late 2021, something was changing. The people closest to Terrell noticed something. He kept trying to leave, but she always pulled him back. Terrell's sister Marcella remembered conversations where he seemed different, tired, like he was ready to be done with the drama, the fighting, the constant tension. He had 4 children to think about. He had music to focus on. He had a life to build. And according to family members, Taylor's possessiveness was getting worse, not better. She would do different things as far as tracking and monitoring his calls. Marcella later recalled, he couldn't do anything without her knowing it. This wasn't just keeping tabs on a boyfriend. This was systematic control. By December 2021, Terrell had apparently made a decision. According to his sister, he told family members, "I'm done this time." He was ready to leave Taylor for good, ready to focus on his children, his music, his future. But Taylor Wardlaw had other plans. In late December 2021, Terrell disappeared. 1 minute, he was home with Taylor. The next gone, no calls, no texts, no posts. His phone went dark. No one heard from him after December 20th. But here's what makes this disappearance immediately suspicious. The timing: Terrell went missing on Monday, December 20th, 2021. But Taylor didn't report him missing until Tuesday, December 22nd. That's a 24-hour delay. Think about that. If someone you love, someone you live with, someone you share a child with just vanishes, how long would you wait before calling for help? Taylor's own behavior proved she was obsessively attached to Terrell. She tracked his every move, demanded constant contact, couldn't stand being apart from him. So why would she wait 24 hours to report him missing? Marcella, Terrell's twin sister, found this delay immediately suspicious. As she later explained, "If that was my husband Jordan and he can't be gone for 1 or 2 hours without me blowing his phone up, I'm gonna call his mama, I'm gonna call his sister, I'm gonna call his brother. I wouldn't even give him 2 hours." But Taylor waited 24 hours, and when she finally did call Terrell's family, her story was already changing. It didn't feel right. Terrell wasn't the type to vanish. He had 4 children, one still in diapers, a tight-knit twin sister who could read him like a book. 2 days later, on December 22nd, Taylor was the one who filed a missing person report. And her story, it kept changing. First, she told police that Terrell had left their home on December 20th after they spent the day with their baby, and she hadn't seen him since. But when she talked to Terrell's family, the details shifted. Initially, Taylor told Marcella that Terrell had gone to get a phone charger from a friend. Then it became an ankle monitor charger. Then she said he went to put gas in the car, but she couldn't explain why he didn't just ride with her to the gas station. Every conversation brought new details that didn't match the previous version. Marcella, who had been listening carefully, started noticing these inconsistencies immediately. But Taylor wasn't just telling different stories to family members. She was launching a public campaign. She said she hadn't seen him. She said she was worried. She said maybe he ran off to clear his head. Then she posted on Facebook. She wrote messages asking for prayers. She said she missed him. She posted about how she couldn't function without him, how she couldn't eat or sleep. The posts weren't just emotional, they were unhinged. Taylor was flipping between expressions of heartbreak and aggressive lashing out at anyone who questioned her. She told people not to ask her questions, not to challenge her story. She claimed she was too emotionally unstable to answer messages properly. She even organized a search party right near the creek where his body would later be found. Let that sink in for a moment. Terrell's ankle monitor, the one he was required to wear from the previous domestic violence case, had stopped transmitting on December 21st, the last known location, near Monticello Road. The same area where Taylor was directing search volunteers, the same area where she would later be captured on surveillance footage. And while Taylor was publicly crying about missing Terrell, phone records would later show she was in constant contact with someone else entirely. Eddie Brown, also known as Youngsta. While Taylor was putting on her Academy Award-worthy performance of grief, the truth was far more horrific than anyone could have imagined. December 19th into December 20th, 2021 wasn't just another night of arguing for Terrell and Taylor. It was the night everything finally exploded. Terrell came home late that evening. Taylor was waiting, and she was angry. Phone records show that Taylor had been trying to reach Terrell repeatedly as her suspicions and rage grew throughout the day. She was convinced he was cheating on her again. The great irony, Taylor herself had been secretly involved with another man, Eddie Brown, known as Youngsta, a relationship she had kept completely hidden from Terrell and his family. According to Taylor's later confession and the evidence investigators pieced together, they argued fiercely. She confronted him about where he'd been, who he'd been with, what he was doing. But this wasn't just another fight about jealousy, this was about control. And Terrell had apparently reached his breaking point. He told her what she'd been dreading to hear: he was leaving her for good this time. Taylor later claimed that during the argument Terrell hit her. Whether that's true or just another manipulation, we'll never know. But what happened next is undisputed. In a burst of rage, Taylor grabbed a gun. Her gun, the one she would later claim was missing. And she pulled the trigger. Not once, 4 times. The autopsy would later reveal that Terrell Sims was shot 4 times. But here's the detail that destroys any claim of self-defense. One of those bullets hit him in the back. Think about what that means. Terrell was turned away from Taylor when at least one shot was fired. He was trying to leave, maybe trying to escape, maybe trying to get away from the woman who had just started shooting at him. But Taylor kept firing. In a matter of seconds, years of toxic relationship dynamics culminated in irreversible violence. Terrell Sims collapsed and died in the home he shared with Taylor and their baby. And then, instead of calling 911, instead of trying to help him, instead of showing any remorse, Taylor made a choice that reveals the true depths of her character. She didn't call for help, she called Eddie Brown. Within minutes of killing Terrell, Taylor was on the phone with her secret boyfriend, telling him what had happened and asking for help to cover it up. Eddie Brown arrived at Taylor's apartment approximately 40 minutes after the shooting. Security camera footage from a neighboring property captured his vehicle pulling into the apartment complex. He remained inside the home for over 2 hours. What occurred during those hours was a meticulous, cold-blooded operation to dispose of evidence and conceal the murder. Rather than reporting the incident, Taylor and Eddie developed a strategy to hide Terrell's body and clean the crime scene. They wrapped Terrell's lifeless body in plastic. They loaded him into a rental car that Eddie had obtained earlier that day. Taylor and Eddie transported Terrell's body to a remote creek area outside Columbia near Monticello Road. The location wasn't random, it was isolated enough to potentially delay discovery, yet accessible enough for quick disposal in the middle of the night. But they had a problem: Terrell's ankle monitor. Remember, Terrell was required to wear GPS monitoring as part of his release conditions from the previous domestic violence case. The device was tracking his every movement, so they cut it off. They removed the ankle monitor from Terrell's leg and discarded it in the brush, about a mile from where they dumped his body. They thought they were being smart. They thought they were covering their tracks, but what they didn't realize was that the ankle monitor had been transmitting data right up until the moment it was removed, and that data would later provide investigators with a precise timeline and location trail. The monitor stopped transmitting at approximately 9:47 p.m. on December 20th, right around the time neighbors reported hearing an argument escalating at Taylor and Terrell's residence, followed by sounds consistent with gunshots. Within 12 hours of shooting Terrell while his body was still lying where they had dumped it, Taylor went to a pawn shop. She brought one of Terrell's prized possessions, his custom gold-mouth grill, a piece of jewelry he wore in his teeth that was important to his image as a rapper, and she sold it for cash. Let that sink in. The missing person report filed by Taylor Wardlaw on December 22, 2021, initiated what Columbia police initially treated as a standard missing person case. Investigators began routine procedures, gathering a detailed description of Terrell Sims, collecting information about his habits and last known whereabouts. Taylor, maintaining her carefully constructed facade of a distraught girlfriend, cooperated fully with the initial inquiries. She provided details about Terrell, their relationship, and recounted the circumstances of his supposed disappearance after their argument on December 20th. Her performance was convincing. To the initial investigators, she appeared to be a worried partner, heartbroken and desperate for help in finding the man she loved. But as the days passed without any sign of Terrell, investigators began to look more closely. Missing person cases, while often resolved quickly, sometimes involve complexities that require deeper scrutiny. They started interviewing Terrell's family and friends, seeking any information that might shed light on his whereabouts or potential reasons for leaving. It was during these conversations that the first warning signs began to emerge. Terrell's family, particularly his twin sister Marcella, expressed strong doubts that he would simply vanish, especially right before Christmas and without contacting his children. They knew his dedication as a father. They found it highly improbable that he would abandon his kids. About a week after Terrell went missing, around the end of December, one of Taylor's own friends approached Columbia Police with information that would blow the case wide open. This friend, whose name has been protected, had been harboring a shocking secret for days and couldn't keep it any longer. She told investigators that Taylor and Eddie Brown had shown up at her house late one night, both looking frazzled and upset. And then Taylor had confessed. According to this witness, Taylor admitted, "I did it. I killed Terrell." The forensic evidence left behind was loader than any lie Taylor could come up with. When investigators finally got warrants to search Taylor's apartment, they found blood evidence despite her attempts to clean up. Using specialized lighting and chemical agents, forensic technicians discovered traces of blood matching Terrell's DNA in multiple locations throughout the home. Blood spatter patterns indicated a violent struggle and multiple gunshots within the residence, exactly matching Taylor's confession about what had happened during their argument. The rental car Eddie had used yielded even more evidence. Despite attempts to clean it, blood residue matching Terrell's DNA remained detectable through forensic testing. And then there was the bullet hole in the car's hood, undeniable physical evidence that linked both Eddie and the vehicle directly to the disposal of Terrell's body. The truth didn't come out until January 5, 2022. That's when Columbia Police, working with state and county agencies, discovered a black trash bag near Monticello Road, right by Nipper Creek. Inside was the body of a young man. It was Terrell. He hadn't just been dumped, he had been shot multiple times. One of the bullets struck him in the back. The autopsy made it clear this was no accident, and he had been dead since the night Taylor claimed she last saw him. Near Terrell's body, investigators found his discarded ankle monitor, the final piece of evidence that connected all the dots in their timeline. With the body found and this overwhelming collection of evidence, Taylor's elaborate web of lies collapsed completely. There was no one else to blame, no strangers, no break-in, no random disappearance. It was her, she knew it. And after weeks of pretending, she cracked. Police immediately re-interviewed Taylor after finding Terrell's body. They pulled security footage, they examined her apartment with warrants, they analyzed her phone records and the rental car, and it all pointed to one thing: she did it. Confronted with the overwhelming evidence, the witness testimony, the phone records, the physical evidence, the body, the ankle monitor data, Taylor's carefully constructed story finally unraveled. She eventually confessed. Taylor admitted that she and Terrell had gotten into an argument on the night of December 19th into December 20th. She accused him of cheating. He told her he was leaving for real this time, and in that moment she pulled out a gun and shot him. Not once, several times. He died inside the apartment they shared, and immediately after killing him, she called Eddie Brown to help get rid of the body. They wrapped Terrell's body in plastic, stuffed him into bags, and dumped him near Nipper Creek. Then they went back home, and Taylor began her performance. She cleaned up the blood, she disposed of evidence, she constructed her story, and then she started calling, crying, and posting on social media like nothing had happened. For nearly 2 weeks, Taylor Wardlaw successfully convinced Terrell's family, the community, and initially even the police, that she was a devoted girlfriend desperately searching for her missing boyfriend, all while knowing exactly where his body was because she had put it there. On January 6, 2022, just one day after Terrell's body was found, Taylor Wardlaw was arrested and charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. The arrest came swiftly once investigators had all the pieces in place. There was no dramatic chase, no resistance. Taylor was taken into custody at her apartment, the same place where she had killed Terrell just over 2 weeks earlier. She was denied bond and held in the Richland County Jail while prosecutors built what they knew would be an overwhelming case against her. Taylor's case was initially expected to go to trial in early 2024. Prosecutors were prepared to present the overwhelming evidence, the witness testimony, the digital trails, the forensic evidence, the ankle monitor data, and Taylor's own confession. They were seeking a murder conviction, which in South Carolina could carry a sentence of 30 years to life in prison, but Taylor's defense team knew they were facing an uphill battle. The evidence was overwhelming. Their client had confessed. There were multiple witnesses, digital evidence, and physical proof of her guilt. So they began exploring alternatives. Plea negotiations started months before the scheduled trial date. The question wasn't whether Taylor was guilty, everyone knew she was. The question was what she would ultimately be convicted of, and how long she would spend in prison. For Terrell's family, the waiting was agonizing. They had already endured the trauma of his disappearance, the shock of discovering he'd been murdered, and the revelation that someone they had trusted and welcomed into their family was responsible for his death. Now they had to wait for the legal system to deliver justice. Marcella, Terrell's twin sister, struggled with the knowledge that she had spent weeks talking to Taylor on the phone, listening to her cry, offering her comfort, all while Taylor knew exactly what had happened to Terrell. "If you knew how hard it was for me to sit there and talk on the phone to this girl, knowing she did that to my brother," Marcella later said, "I had to play along. It was hard." Rose, another of Terrell's sisters, was focused on the impact this would have on Terrell's children, particularly the young child he shared with Taylor. "They still ask where their daddy is," Rose said, "and it's kind of hard to sit down and explain to them your daddy's gone. You could tell them that all you want, but a 3-year-old and 4-year-old, they're not going to understand." 31-year-old Taylor Wardlaw agreed to plead guilty to a lesser charge, voluntary manslaughter. It was a significant downgrade from murder, reflecting some leniency in exchange for not putting Terrell's family through a lengthy, painful trial where they would have to relive every detail of his death. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors also agreed to drop the related gun possession charge. The plea hearing was a solemn affair. In a Columbia courtroom packed with Terrell's family members, Taylor stood before judge and for the first time publicly, took responsibility for her actions. She admitted that she killed Terrell. She said the words, "I'm guilty." For Terrell's family, hearing those words was both a relief and a source of frustration. Relief that she was finally admitting what they had known all along. Frustration that it had taken over 2 years and the threat of a trial to get her to tell the truth. The judge then handed down the sentence, 20 years in prison for Taylor Wardlaw. This was less than the maximum 30 years she could have received for voluntary manslaughter, but it ensured she would spend a significant portion of her life behind bars. According to South Carolina's sentencing guidelines, with good behavior, Taylor's earliest possible release would be in 2038, accounting for the time she'd already served since her 2022 arrest. In practical terms, that means Taylor will be middle-aged by the time she gets out, and Terrell's children will be grown adults. For Terrell's family, the plea deal was a bittersweet resolution. On one hand, they no longer had to endure a trial where Taylor might have tried to smear Terrell's character or claim self-defense in more detail. The guilty plea meant Taylor accepted responsibility, at least legally, for what she did. On the other hand, 20 years felt like too light a punishment for the brutal betrayal and loss of Terrell's life. Rose Sims, Terrell's sister, spoke to reporters after the sentencing and expressed the family's mixed feelings about the outcome. "I felt she should have got more," Rose said. "I wish she would have got life, to tell you the truth about what she did." Rose was particularly focused on the impact Taylor's actions would have on Terrell's children. As for Eddie Brown, his case remained ongoing with charges related to his role in assisting Taylor after the murder. He was facing potential years behind bars for accessory after the fact and evidence tampering. His cooperation with investigators had provided additional details about the night of the murder and the cover-up that followed, but he still faced the legal consequences for his actions in helping Taylor hide her crime. The legal proceedings brought some measure of closure, but for Terrell's family, the pain of his loss would never fully heal. They had lost a son, a brother, a father. And they had been betrayed by someone they had trusted, someone they had welcomed into their family, someone who had manipulated their love and grief for her own purposes. When the cameras stopped rolling and the courtroom emptied, the real sentence began, but not just for Taylor Wardlaw. The real sentence was for Terrell's 4 children, kids who now have to grow up with pictures instead of presents, kids who will ask why they don't have a father to walk them into their first day of school, why no one picks them up after a bad dream, why their dad stopped showing up, and every time someone will have to answer them with the same truth, because someone who said they loved him, took him. But the impact of Taylor's actions extended far beyond just Terrell's immediate family. This case shattered the trust of an entire community. People who had shared Taylor's missing person posts, who had volunteered for search parties, who had prayed for Terrell's safe return, were left feeling manipulated and used. This case highlights the dangerous reality of domestic violence and controlling relationships. The warning signs had been there for years: the possessive behavior, the surveillance, the legal troubles, the threats. Taylor had literally told Terrell, "If I can't have you, nobody else will." But like so many victims of domestic violence, Terrell found it difficult to completely break free from the cycle. Taylor posted photos of Terrell with captions about missing him. She organized search parties. She responded to comments with gratitude for people's prayers and support, all while knowing that the man people were praying for was already dead because she had killed him. How does someone look at posts from Terrell's family expressing worry and hope and respond with fake concern? How does someone accept condolences and sympathy while being the cause of the very tragedy people are grieving? Because Terrell, he's not coming back. He'll never see his children graduate, never walk his daughters down the aisle, never hold his grandchildren, never achieve his dreams of making it in the music industry. His life was cut short at 26 years old by someone who claimed to love him but couldn't accept that love doesn't mean ownership. Terrell's mother lost a son. His twin sister Marcella lost her closest confidant. His other sisters lost their brother, and 4 children lost their father. See you in the next episode of Deranged Women. Thanks for watching.